This is a playbook that is spreading across the continent. And once you see how it works, you would never look at power the same way again. You remember Mamadou Doumbouya, guy who rode into Guinea's capital back in 2021, saying he was just there to clean up things. We won't run for office, he promised. We are just there to fix the mess. Yeah, every coup leader says that.
We have no plans to say law. All we are here for is to set a just system and to put up structures that will ensure that what happened in the past 30 years will never happen again.
But let me tell you one thing. My fate is in the hands of the Almighty Allah. I will deliver to the Gambian people. And if I have to rule this country for 1 billion years, I will.
That was Yahya Jammeh of Gambia who promised he was going to give back power shortly after he seized it. Now I'm talking about 1 billion years. So let's go back to Guinea. September 2025 happened. Over 90% of Guineans voted yes in this referendum. Sounds pretty democratic, doesn't it? Well, hold on that thought, because when you actually look at what they voted for, man, you are just gonna drop. And when you see how this connects to mining deals worth billions of dollars, plus this pattern that's spreading like wildfire across West Africa, you will get why this little West African country just became the center of something way bigger. Ever wonder why African leaders keep breaking their promises about stepping down? By the time we are done here, you will know exactly why they pull it. And trust me, once you see the playbook, you will spot it everywhere. Alright, here's what really went down in Guinea's referendum. They didn't just vote on this one single thing. Nah, they voted on this whole package deal. Now think of it like those combo meals at restaurants, except some of the food might be poisoned. So they mix popular good laws that many people would normally like with things that are very controversial and put it in one package for a vote, either yes or no. Gender quotas, 30% women in leadership positions. They elevated 8 local languages alongside French. Now independent candidates can also run for office. Sounds pretty progressive, right? But here's the kicker. Buried in this same vote was this clause that basically erases the transition charter. You know that one that said military guys like Doumbouya couldn't run for president? The exact same promise he made when he took power. You see, when Doumbouya took power, he made a transition charter which said that those who took part in the coup, those who are involved in the transition, wouldn't be able to run for president. You see, this bill was like putting poison and medicine in one pill. You can swallow one without taking in the other. And that's exactly the point. You see, your brain should be going crazy right about now with questions, because this isn't the first time we are seeing this movie. Yahya Jammeh in Gambia, same exact script. Said he wasn't a politician, ended up ruling for 22 years. Yoweri Museveni in Uganda, his short-term transition turned into almost 4 decades in power. This year he even promised that he was going in for another term. So what, he hasn't changed for over 4 decades, he wants to change for the next few years? Even civilian leaders like Alpha Conde, the guy Doumbouya actually overthrew, he used constitutional tricks to extend his own rule too. There is this pattern we keep seeing across the continent. Leaders promise one thing, then find ways to stay longer. But Guinea's situation is different from all the others. And in a couple of minutes, I'm going to show you why this referendum could trigger something way bigger than just another African strongman story. First though, let me tell you what's really happening underground in Guinea. Okay, so while everyone is arguing about democracy and referendum, there is this billion-dollar chess game happening underground. And I mean literally underground. Guinea is sitting on 7.4 billion tons tons of bauxite reserves. That's more than any other country on earth. Your phone, your car, that plane flying overhead, they all need bauxite to make aluminium. Without it, modern life basically stops. China imports about 50 million tons of bauxite every single year from Guinea. Rochel's Rusal has been there for decades. And France still thinks that Guinea is part of their backyard. These aren't just business deals. We are talking strategic dependencies here. But here's what nobody wants to talk about. When Doumbouya took power in Guinea in 2021, mining money was leaving Guinea faster than water through a broken dam. The previous government had signed deals so terrible that Guinea was basically giving away its resources while 40% of people lived in poverty. Since then, things have actually started changing. New roads have been built. Infrastructure projects that sat stalled for years are moving again. Mining revenues that used to disappear overseas are staying in the country. So maybe this referendum isn't just about Doumbouya just grabbing power. Maybe it's about solidifying control over those mining contracts so he can keep delivering the changes Guineans are actually seeing on the ground. You see, Guinea isn't just any African country. When Guinea sneezes, entire global supply chains catch cold. These have happened several times when instabilities occurred in Guinea. China needs that bauxite like they need air to breathe. Russia's got business ties going back decades. France still acts like Guinea belongs to them. So when the political situation gets shaky, everyone gets nervous. Which brings up this question nobody's really asking. Was this referendum actually about letting Doumbouya stay in power? Or was this about making sure those mining deals keep flowing no matter what regular Guineans want? Because when you control both the constitution and the mines, you are not ruling a country anymore. You are basically holding the world hostage. But the story gets even crazier when you look at what's happening in the rest of West Africa right now. Mali, Burkina Faso and Niger have had military takeovers in the past few years. And here's what might surprise you. People there are actually celebrating. Not because they love military rule, but because they are drowning over civilian politicians who couldn't deliver basic services while foreign companies walked away with their resources. Ibrahim Traoré of Burkina Faso told France to pack up and leave. Suddenly, local mining revenue started staying in the country. Assimi Goïta in Mali renegotiated contracts that were bleeding the country dry. These aren't your typical military coups. These are fed-up populations saying enough to leaders who served foreign interest over their own people. The crowds aren't cheering for authoritarianism. They are cheering because someone finally stood up to the system that kept them poor, while their gold, uranium, bauxite made everyone else rich. But here is the tension. Will these leaders keep serving their people? Or will power corrupt them like it has so many others? Because there is a huge difference between taking power to serve your people and taking power to serve your interest. And that difference is exactly what's been tested in Guinea right now. Now, here is the reality Western leaders won't tell you. Maybe these military leaders aren't the villains in this story. Maybe they are responding to something deeper. Decades of so-called democratic leaders who served everyone except their own people. Now, picture this. I want you to imagine you are a regular Guinean watching foreign companies extracting your bauxite worth billions of dollars. Yet your neighborhood doesn't have electricity. You're a Malian farmer watching your gold leave the country while you can't afford to send your kids to school. You are someone in Burkina Faso watching your uranium power European cities while your village has no clean water. When your elected leaders sign deals that benefit Paris more than your own people. Is that democracy or is that colonialism in a ballot box? So the question isn't whether military rule is perfect. It's whether these military leaders will actually use their power to serve their people, or whether they will just become new versions of the old problem. And that's exactly what Guineans are watching with Dumbuya right now. But let's talk about what Guineans on the ground are actually experiencing, because the story on the